A group of old suitcases on the top of a wardrobe makes an excellent drawing exercise. We have issues of proportion, of perspective, and certainly of creating the effect of the detail that we have in these suitcases with their handles and their latches and so forth. Now, the first important thing to notice is that eye level runs through almost the center of this scene. So I'm not looking up from the floor, I'm on a step ladder. And so the horizontal lines of the upper parts of the cases slope down towards the left. The lower horizontal lines slope down towards the right, as does the top of the suitcase. So that's important. One of the things you'll get great practice with this exercise is on estimating proportions, because these suitcases are all about rectangles, and while it might feel straightforward to draw the proportions of a suitcase, if, as I am, you're drawing directly with ink and so there's no erasing, then we sort of have to draw some of the detail first as well, which can make it harder to judge the overall proportions that we're looking at in the objects that we're seeing. The other thing that we need to bear in mind, if we want to create some sense of realism with these suitcases, is to get a sense of depth. So that means we need to be on the lookout for including our depth lines whenever we have an opportunity to, such as on the sides of, say, latches that lift off from the surface of the suitcase. We need to do the depth lines for the edges that we can see. From this angle, it's going to be on two of the sides in most cases. We also want to be aware that where we have these buffers on the corners of the suitcases, that they extend past the line of the surface of the edge of the suitcase as well. That we don't just draw the corners as if they weren't there and then draw a line around the corner to define it. We want them to protrude past the edge. Now, we also have a lot of stitching on these cases, which is part of the overall visual effect that we get. So we also want to represent that without getting bogged down in doing stitch after stitch after stitch. If we do a couple of places where we do the stitching more carefully, and then other places where we do a suggestion of the stitching, that probably will carry the day. Now, we don't see all of this bottom suitcase. Part of it is down below the surface of this cornice that we have. As you can see, I had a little trouble just pushing that perspective angle down towards the right quite far enough. It's probably still a little too much nudging back up towards horizontal. But there is a discernible slope at least. And so now working out the best order in which to draw the hardware, so to speak, on the suitcases. Now, these latches are pretty much rusted open, and I could have just drawn them shut, but sometimes it's good to just push ourselves that little bit extra to draw the peculiarities of the particular object that we have. And then we have the challenge of centering the handle, and again, we want to represent the three-dimensionality of the handle, that some parts of the handle we can see side on and other parts we only see the front. And then it's just trying to work out exactly what's happening down the side. So, ready for this third suitcase, the squat suitcase on top, which, as you can see, is angled out. So it's not sitting back with the others, it's overhanging. So that just adds a little bit more of a challenge for us to get that effect accurately drawn. So here I am now with the corners, And again, trying to work out the best order to do the hardware. These catches are different, totally different lock-in catching system on this squarer suitcase. So just trying to work out how I'll, again, do the suggestion of that. I'm using a 0.2 millimeter pen. So with detail this small, it's still a reasonably large line to get the detail, and I don't want it to be looking blotchy. So I am using a fairly light touch in parts as well. Now, this handle is a different type of handle. It hangs further away from the surface and it's hanging down at one end. Which creates a bit of a lopsided effect. And now a little bit of hatching for the shadow of this label. And now just add in some of these details, the stitching, and then thinking about the placement of this vertical but more rounded leather suitcase on the right hand side. So I'm not sure why I made that corner fairly right angled when it's rounded. It wasn't till I was doing the one on the other side that I realized that I'd done that. And so now just, yep, here I'm going, what did I do there? So working on that side and coming up, and now the rounded corners again. Almost finished, and I do a line like that. Don't you just love it? However, it is off to the side, so hopefully, even though there really isn't much I could do to hide it, although just looking at my reference now, if I was developing hatching for shadow and shade more carefully, I could actually hide that line in the shade which is on that side of the case, because the light is primarily coming from the left-hand side. And so just getting the side in place, and then I'm pretty well done. But it did all seem to be floating in space a little bit too much, so I did decide to just do a simplified version of the ceiling of some sort of cornice in place, which I thought was a very quick and easy way to anchor this as definitely being up in the top corner of a room, which is the sort of place we expect to see these suitcases. They're either under the bed or they're on top of the wardrobe. And then just a little bit more to represent the thought of a cornice, and we're pretty much done. Of course, you'll be able to get this reference photo on my channel community page if you want to have a go drawing this group of battered old suitcases yourself. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you give it a go. It doesn't look quite as difficult as it is. There are some challenges with this, so it does make it a great daily exercise. Took me about 14 minutes, I think, in real time. So let's see how you go with it. But look, whatever you draw, however you draw it, and whatever time you draw it in, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.